Are we having fun yet? Holy cow. Trump is burning the midnight oil. The Trump transition team making announcements left and right over the selection of people like RFK Jr. to be the head of Health and Human Services. And I'm really intrigued by that pick, because what he believes in terms of vaccines is something that really resonates with a lot of us. And to people who insist on, for example, vaccine mandates, he blows up their entire narrative. They despise him for believing that Americans should have a right to decide what gets put into their body or their children's bodies. Yesterday, Jake Tapper went into a break and said, well, America, hope you're ready for measles. Get ready for measles. We're going to get typhoid. Everybody's going to drop dead now because RFK Jr. doesn't like vaccines. He's anti-vax. He's not anti-vax. He's anti-mandatory vaccines. If a parent doesn't want their child to get vaccinated, shouldn't that be a parent's right? And it all came to a head with the pandemic. Look at what we witnessed. People getting fired for not taking the vaccine. People who had to choose between a career. That woman whose attorney we interviewed this week had been with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Detroit, or Michigan rather, for 38 years. And they said, well, now time for you to get this vaccine. She was working from home. She wasn't bothering anybody. And she asked for a religious exemption because of her deep faith, and they said, nope, you're out. Now she's $13 million richer. That's what Blue Cross Blue Shield has to fork over. And they're losing their minds over RFK Jr. They hate it. Listen to AOC yesterday on MSNBC.
I think it's what's very important, too, is that, yes, there are these concerns about that. You have a baby, and anywhere in the world, I mean, protecting against polio, against measles, against very serious communicable diseases that, I mean, we would be talking about going back to the, 1700s, 1800s. I mean, this is serious.
He's going to take us back to the 1700s. You better get your kid vaccinated, or we're going back to the 1700s. Listen to Dr. Sanjay Gupta over on CNN.
It's not often that the entire medical and public health community is going to be in lockstep on something, but they're pretty close on this in terms of their significant concerns, horror even. Somebody said to me today, I can't think of any single individual who'd be more damaging to public health than RFK.
And it all comes down to mandatory vaccines. And that's the question for this audience. I want to ask you about it at 800-655-MIKE. It's real simple. Do you believe that everybody, when the government decides to tell you, you or your children have to get vaccinated, you better get vaccinated, or we're going to go back to the 1700s? Here's a former White House policy director, Kavita Patel, on MSNBC.
Oh, my God. I mean, those of us who have spent our lifetime, kind of decades working in and around in HHS, I'm not kidding, Nicole, my texts are flying off the chain, both Democrats and Republicans saying, this can't be real. Someone must have gotten this wrong. This can't be possible. And now the second underlying chain, if there's some silver linings, the second thought I had is he can't get confirmed, can he?
That's the MSNBC medical contributor. Oh, my God. The texts are flying off the chain. Oh, my gosh. Well, look how awful it is that Look, I love this election. I don't agree with RFK Jr. on many things. I am convinced, and I know he's he's a Democrat, he's a Kennedy. I'm sure there are plenty of policy positions that I would find fault with, but I have to tell you, a man who believes, who would be the director of the Health and Human Services Agency, that Americans get to choose whether or not they're going to get vaccinated or not, that's a Trump kind of pick. And I believe Americans are all on board. Welcome aboard. We made it to Friday. It's November the 15th, 2024. 800-655-MIKE. I want to see, maybe you think I'm crazy. Maybe I'm all wet. Maybe RFK Jr. is going to take us back to the 1700s. Let's get your reaction to it all. Boy, what a week it has been. Matt Gaetz, they're flipping out about Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, every one of Trump's picks, it seems, except Marco Rubio, they're terrified about. Almost makes me worried about Marco Rubio. 800-655-Mike. Join us.
Mike Gallagher.
Just like Americans rejected the load of crap that they kept throwing at Donald Trump by electing him overwhelmingly last week, you're going to have to be prepared for the load of crap that they're going to throw on every one of his picks, like RFK Jr. RFK Jr. is not a vaccine denier. He believes people have a right, and incidentally, I kind of buried the lead. I want to also reiterate something I said yesterday. RFK Jr. believes that vaccines should face the same scrutiny and the same scientific rigors as other medicines. And they don't. They just don't. Right now, if I ask this audience, are you going to get another COVID vaccine? I can guarantee you the vast majority of people would tell me, not only no, you'd say, oh, hell no. My doctor doesn't believe that I should get another COVID vaccine. Too much has come out. And again, my choice, my decision with my doctor. Why doesn't that extend to your child? For me, this comes down to common sense. I want to play a clip for you here in a moment of Dr. Drew. He was on News Nation last night. Dr. Drew is one of these medical guys that, has a broadcast platform. I think he used to be a host, a radio host, I think, in L.A., if I'm not mistaken. But he was talking to Leland Vittert last night about what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is about. They remember something. They're going to smear everybody. The former head of the NAACP called Pete Hegseth a war hero, right? She called him a known white supremacist. This is what they're reduced to. You got to laugh at these clowns because they're nuts. They're just crazy. These are crazy people. So you can't listen to crazy people say, well, RFK Jr. is ... because they don't know what he is. They know he's a disruptor, and they know he's going to stand up to the tyranny of the vaccine crowd. I mean, this is what makes me crazy. Every time I hear people thumping their chest about the need to get vaccines, why didn't they care about all the millions of illegals pouring into America that didn't have vaccines? Why didn't they make illegals get vaccinated? It never crossed their mind to insist on mandatory vaccinations for people, swimming across the Rio Grande in a banana boat. That makes me nuts. These aren't serious people. Oh, yeah, I got to play this clip. This is the clip of the day. This is a doozy. This is somebody who I see on my cheat sheet here is a woman named Sherilyn Ifill. This is the former president of the NAACP, one of the most prominent civil rights groups in the world. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, former president Sherilyn Ifill on MSNBC. Now, you know about Pete Hegseth. 2 Bronze Stars, Ivy League education. He's brilliant. He's a patriot. He's heroic. And he's got the military in his veins, in his blood, in his DNA. And listen to the smear from the former head of the NAACP on that despicable MSNBC yesterday.
The Secretary of Defense nominee, Peter Hegseth, the Fox News commentator as well, because this is someone who, weekend host, important distinction. This is someone who, is known to be a white supremacist, known to be an extremist, whose platform, whose book is basically about his opposition to the advancement of black officers to the top brass.
And shame on Chris Hayes sitting there like a deaf mute, letting her smear a war hero. Well, how many Bronze Stars does she have? How many Bronze Stars does he have? A known white supremacist? Again, these people are nuts. They're kooks. And you got to laugh at them. That's what you got to do with kooks. You got to laugh them off. and you got to ignore them. You cannot pay attention to them. Maria is in Delaware, 22 past the hour. Our number is 800-655-MIKE if you want to join us, 800-655-6453. How you doing, Maria?
I'm doing very good. I wanted to comment on the RFK thing,
Good.
and I know, and what you had just said actually it falls in line with what I was going to say. But
Okay.
I've been following him for decades, and number one, it's not what he's about. Everyone needs to do their research about what RFK is about, and like you said, like I challenge everyone because he's not against vaccines. He's against, first of all, government control of vaccines. Number two, he's for making sure it's like your body, your choice. They all talk about that, right? But when it comes down to vaccines and drugs and all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden that narrative changes. But he's about efficacy and the safety of the vaccines and looking at that vaccine schedule. And I challenge mothers, if they were a mother that took pictures of their child every month after they were born, like that first 12 years, look at the 2 months when you took a picture of your baby. I guarantee they're going to see their head looks weird because that was the month that doctors filled them up with all kinds of vaccines. Their heads are like swollen and they like look different. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And if you go back and you look at pictures, you can kind of see because they pumped them up with so many vaccines.
And I don't know if how, you know, that I take your word for it. I don't know because that's the kind of thing that they say is these are conspiracy theories. This is what vaccine deniers sound like. They talk about misshapen heads, yada, yada. Look, you have a right to express yourself and you have a right to feel the way you feel. And you certainly have a right, I believe, to have an injection put into your child or not. I want you to hear Dr. Drew. This is so important because to Maria's point, RFK Jr. is not a vaccine denier. He's not even a vaccine skeptic. Listen to the way a professional like Dr. Drew explained it last night on News Nation.
We're learning now in the data that it was suburban moms who actually found what Robert F. Kennedy was saying so interesting. We said at the beginning of the program that, look, you can see a guy who is a vaccine conspiracy theorist, vaccine questioner, whatever you want to say, who kills bears, or you can see a guy who's a champion for health. I see you putting your hands up. I'm going to let you answer. How and what is incumbent upon Robert F. Kennedy to not allow that narrative to take hold?
Well, it is incumbent upon everybody to continue to pressure the press. I wonder if he doesn't sue the press for slander because he's fully vaxxed, his family's fully vaxxed. He has no vaccine denialism. He wants vaccines subjected to the same scientific rigor as all the other medication that people like me are allowed by the FDA to bring to market. So we could use these things. As it is an entirely different operation with no liability to speak of. And there may be really significant problems with these vaccines. At least we should be able to ask the questions. I'm not a vax denier. Everybody's fully vaxxed in my practice. But when I give my patients informed consent, I have to include in that these things have not been tested the way I would be satisfied to really give them a clear understanding.
How can a normal person have an objection to what that man just said? I mean it. How does a normal person, an average, hardworking American, hear that and say, oh, RFK Jr., I can't believe he could even be confirmed. Oh, my Lord, he can't get confirmed. There won't be any single individual more damaging to public health. He wants the food to be better. He wants to know why in the entire industrialized world, we're one of the most unhealthy nations in America. And yet we pour trillions of dollars into our healthcare system. This is a disruptor. It's exactly what the American people expect the Trump administration to deliver.